Biology Department, and a student friend from Lady Doe College. We are back again, this time with faculty seminar, another academic activity that got stalled because of lockdown. With the sheer commitment and enthusiasm of our faculty team, we are once again becoming a part of this platform with the aid of technology to excite, challenge, and stimulate our intellectual desires and thirsts. When it comes to growing up in a country like India, irrespective of your age, you are engulfed with films and its visuals. It has only got intensified with the arrival of web-supported platforms. Academicians and students of sociology, the topics of masculinity, femininity in popular culture have occupied a great deal of our classroom conversations. The discussions on the portrayal of gender stereotyping in movies have mostly confined to breaking the stereotypes of femininity without talking about masculinity and men much. The Hindi film Thappad is an inspiring exception to this league of movies. It is one of those rare movies which makes us ask certain fundamental and disturbing questions when it comes to bringing up of our boys as a patriarchal society. I'm sure that the scheduled presentation for the day would be throwing more insights and critical questions to reflect for all of us. In that context, let me take this opportunity to extend a cordial welcome to our faculty member, Dr. R. Kumaran, who's delivering a lecture on Interrogating Masculinity, a case study of the Hindi film Thappad. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
It is one of those first faculty seminars in which we have got our student friends of CSS, English department, biology department, and also from other college to be part of this kind of sessions. The commitment and excitement shown by them to participate in this seminar adds more charm and value to this program. On the behalf of Center for Studies in Sociology, I extend a cheerful welcome to all of you. Next, I would like to welcome some of our faculty friends from outside our center and university who have displayed a great deal of enthusiasm to be part of this seminar. Welcome all of you. Finally, yet importantly, I want to extend a cheerful welcome to my colleagues, Dr. Arul Gandhi, Dr. Menaka, Dr. Raja, and Dr. Rajangam, who have displayed tremendous amount of intellectual curiosities whenever these programs were organized in the past. And their spirit continues unabated as keen learners of this discipline. Welcome, my colleagues. With that, I shall restrain myself so that the most awaited part of the seminar can be commenced. On behalf of Center for Studies in Sociology and all those who are present here on the other end of technology, I welcome Dr. R. Kumaran for his presentation on the topic, Interrogating Masculinity, a case study of the Hindi film Thappad. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Upahari. It's been a very well paced and well elaborated introduction. As you have mentioned very clearly, this time the faculty seminar is not just a faculty seminar confined only to our faculty members, which is the case most of the time when we organize it offline. since there was a lot of keenness expressed by our students from third year and other batches, as well as students from other departments, this time we made it open to others also to join. Primarily because being an online program, it gives us the scope that others could also join us in great number. And I welcome our student friends who are joining for the first time with in a faculty seminar. We normally kept you out because we had our own different level of presentation, and we'll try to really see whether we can match your expectation and reach your level. I would like to also welcome and thank the faculty members who've been with me on this for quite some time, all my colleagues, four of them. I don't want to waste my time in terms of mentioning the names. I would like to specifically again extend my gratitude for joining today. Dr. Gopendran from Vellore University, VIT, Vellore Institute of Technology, Miss Catherine from Delhi, whom I happen to also teach for a class in Liddu. A couple of times I met her also. She's a very brilliant student. And also people who are going to join in the middle of it. It's my pleasure to have a presentation on this with a very big audience, apparently. And I'll just talk about what I have in my mind. Actually, this particular presentation, which is actually an integration of masculinity, is though apparently about Tappad, it's a movie. It's not a film review or it's not a movie review of Tappad. In fact, I'm trying to place this movie in the context of a recent spate of films that have come in the past few years, particularly within the Malayalam film industry. They've been really asking some really unsettling questions, very difficult questions they're asking about masculinity. And these films are not even women-centric films. They are more than that. Some of them are not even women-centric films, but they are asking very, very difficult and uncomfortable questions about masculinity and about patriarchy, about misogyny, and all those things. So it is very refreshing to see that such films can be made, but it's also very important to understand how these films are being made and what is the context of it. Sociologically speaking, there is a shift in the way movies are viewed today. There was a time when movies were a low class experience. We used to call in American context Nickelodeon kind of films. People who can pay with a nickel, they can go to a theater called Odeon and they paid with their nickel because they were all working class people. So movies moved away from the earlier days. It moved away from being a very low class experience to a middle class experience in India also around 1970s and 80s. But again, they failed to satisfy the middle class audience because of the changing viewing context. The theaters, they started becoming more and more places again for low class, working class, rogue kind of audience. So middle class started avoiding theaters, and because of the fact that the middle class made a huge exodus from the movie theater and started really occupying at homes, staying at homes, watching other kinds of programs, movies content also became more lowbrow. But with the arrival of multiplex theaters and a lot of OTT platforms, over the top platforms like Amazon Prime or Video or Netflix, or we call them streaming partners, it is now possible for movies to be viewed by middle classes in the very comforts of their homes. And it is also again brought back the middle class content or a little higher level of abstraction in the movies. And we can even call it as the return of the middle class audience to the film culture, film viewing. And also this has resulted in a lot of venture capitalists coming and supporting alternative films that asks reasonably serious questions about culture and politics. They're also being made. In this particular context, I remember four important films in Malayalam industry besides Tappad: Veere, Prathipuvan Koli, Ishq, and Koshiyam, and Ayappadam Koshiyam. These four films are standing out because of the kind of questions that they asked. Uere particularly focused on the toxicity of the male ego, the masculinity, the misogyny and its toxicity it was trying to ask. In fact, we called it as, I would like to characterize it as acidic toxicity, because he throws acid. It's that acidic, and it was actually asking those questions and trying to find out how insecure masculinity is, how covered, how much of cowardice masculinity is all about. Similarly, Ishq is a film that, if you have not seen it, it's a wonderful film to see. It's also talked about the vengeful masculinity, and it's studied indifference to femininity. In that film also, there is a kind of a masculinity is always imagining itself as vengefulness, not just to other men but also to women, and in that process it became extremely indifferent to men. That was another thing. Similarly, Ayappanam Koshim was another film which talked about the cost that the women in society as a whole have to pay for the indulgence of very strongly, sharply egotistic masculinity of men. And because of that egotism, how women and society have to pay a huge price because of that. And that's another interesting film. Prathipuvan Goli, a very strongly women-centric film, but this particular film focused on the virulence of masculinity and how this virulent masculinity becomes a hazard for women who are operating in public spheres. They have to constantly face these normalized hazards of masculine virulence in public spaces. And here is in this particular story how a woman unmasks that so-called virulent masculinity and really brings to the relief, brings to the open the cowardice of that so-called virulent masculinity. So all these four films are very unique in their own right for asking some really, really important questions. But among all these films, I would like to probably place Tappad a bit notch above the other four films. Definitely, it's a different language, Hindi, but Tappad stands out for a lot of reasons. It actually asks, unlike Prathipuvan Koli or other films, where the masculinity is presented as over exaggerated or more aggressively it is presented, trying to make it look like a very distant from our everyday experiences. For example, in Prathipuvan Koli, the man who's masculine is extremely virulent. It's like a typical popular film villain, as if he is not someone who is not we're not going to meet that person every day because he's extremely brutal, villainic, full of devilishness and demonism. So that kind of uprooted that particular character. But in this particular film, we see a very, very over normalized everydayness of the masculinity. And that is something that is very much within all of us, that is very much among all of us. So that way it's very special because it talks about the masculinity of the ordinary man who is in our own homes. It could be our father, it could be our spouses, it could be our own brother. So that generalized, diffused, everyday masculinity is something that it is trying to interrogate. That's very important, because the moment you really over exaggerate and make it more hyperbolic, then it tends to become too distant from us. Secondly, it also poses a lot of questions about not just the masculinity manifested in men, but also the masculinity in all of us. The women, the transgender, the children, all of us carry our own masculinity within us. And that is also being questioned here because masculinity is different from men. Similarly, for another reason, also for its cinematic brilliance, also it stands out. Cinematic brilliance because it's a story that is absolutely revealed in the first 20 minutes. The story is revealed. The moment of slapping, Tappad actually stands for slap. The moment of slapping that happens is the moment at which almost the movie has probably revealed its plot. But still, to carry the movie for the remaining 2 hours, it's actually 2 hour 20 minutes movie, elaborating on and deconstructing the masculinity layer by layer and still keeping the audience interest going is really amazing. And it may be interesting for you to know that this movie was a commercial success as well, already made before the lockdown, something around 40 crores, even though it was a movie made with 15-20 crore budget. So it was really a very successful movie. Amazon bought it for again 30-40 crores. So it's a commercially successful movie, and that's even more important because it actually takes up a strong, bold theme of interrogating the masculinity in all of us, including our own family members. It's bold in that sense. So the audience can be the male audience or the masculinized women audience can all be very, very uncomfortable in theaters. But it still took that bold decision of making the audience uncomfortable rather than catering to the audience and pleasing them. It doesn't want to please the audience. In that sense, it's very, very bold. But it is also a very important film for its pluralized narrativity. The narration of the movie tries to include all class of the Indian society, starting from the lower strata to the higher strata. In fact, we see different lives interconnecting, coming drawn from different layers and different class backgrounds of the society. In that sense, also, it's a very inclusive movie. The movie doesn't want to say that the problem that this woman faced is a middle class problem. It wants to say it's a generalized, diffused problem affecting all people, not just women, but even men at all levels, at every level of the Indian society. And the movie has absolutely brilliant dialogues. Despite my broken Hindi, I could still understand the extremely sensitive dialogues and extremely real, genuine dialogues, as if the characters lived the character and spoke it. In fact, none of the dialogues came from the director. It is not the director's voice that you could hear in all the characters. That is very unfortunate case with even some of the brilliant filmmakers in our industry. Unfortunately, all the characters become nothing but a plastic cutouts of the director. If you really watch Maniratnam's films, you can see female, male, everybody is Maniratnam. If you watch Shankar's film, everybody is Shankar. Whereas in this film, Anubhav Sinha, the director of the movie, stayed largely in the margins and allowed the characters to speak as if they lived their lives. So we see a plurality of voices, a plurality of perspectives also. And one can never probably belittle or talk little of the performances of the lead actors. All of them, in fact, many of them are not very big stars except Tapsi. They are all from theater background, television serial artists, but they did tremendously wonderful job. This is not an advertisement for the movie because I know it has its own problems, which also I'll be talking about it. But I can't just stop making these observations. It's very tempting for me to make these observations. Okay, so I already made an observation, made it very clear to the audience right from the beginning that it's not a movie review. I rather use Tuppered as a kind of a metaphor, a kind of a muse to really ask and summarize some of the sociological questions that that is very, very important for all of us. In other words, I'm not going to go from the movie to the themes, but themes to the movie. That's why I'm taking up a kind of a thematic approach, because my primary concern here is to deconstruct the socially constructed notions of masculinity, to interpret the social construction of masculinity. And some of the observations, observations that I'm going to make triggered by this film are not very new to all of us. But it's very interesting that this film has again renewed our commitment and our relations with these important observations that many critiques have made. So how do we critique masculinity? In fact, when a film like this or the films that I mentioned already, when they critique masculinity, they are not trying to be anti-men. They are not trying to be anti-men movies. So normally, what happens is like most of the films tend to be apparently very, very anti-man. In fact, feminism has also been very wrongly characterized as anti-man, and sometimes even feminism has been maybe the reason for it, because it almost imagined it as a gender war between male and female. But critiquing masculinity is not trying to be critiquing man. In fact, we don't want to do that, and the film itself is a testimony to that. When we critique masculinity, we are critiquing the masculine principle and the value systems that espouses it, that supports it. And this particular masculine principle is intertwined in all of us. All of us carry this masculinity within us, whether we are men or women, all of us carry it in our lives. And it is also not promoting the solidarity of women with women. In other words, most of the time, uh, the feminism or critiquing masculinity is often understood to be the business of women by joining hands with women. But it is not exactly the joining of men with men or women with women. It is more of a hand holding of people who probably celebrate the feminine principle. That's why in this film also we can see. I just put some pictures also here. We see the solidarity of, for example, women. Definitely in the second frame also we have the solidarity of women throughout the film. But we also see the solidarity of men and women in this film, like the father and the daughter, or even the neighbor Shivani. In that, she's talking about how she has such a wonderful man in her own life. Her husband was a wonderful person. So it is not exactly the solidarity of women and women. It is a solidarity of all of us. It's in that sense, critiquing masculinity is a very transcending form of a feminism. So all that this film is trying to probably do is to ask all of us to explore the possibility of disavowing the giving up our own masculine principles that have a long run in society. So our society, for long periods of time, have been run on masculine principle. It has its own run. It has its own free flowing run, and we need to probably give an alternative perspective a bit of time. And here, I would like to just kind of pause and ask some of you. I'm actually going to talk as if you all have watched the movie, and for those who have not watched the movie, the brief story is, you would have already seen the story. I may not have to repeat it, but briefly, it's a story of a woman who is a very happy housewife, enjoying her domestic bliss, but has her own sense of herself. But one particular day, her husband, out of a few rage with some other thing, slaps her, and that slap actually happens in front of a whole lot of people, and it's a very self-dissolving moment for her. She actually suddenly discovers that she has never been recognized as a person who deserves respect and dignity, and that triggers a lot of questions within her, and then she realizes that she cannot carry on with that life, and how she goes about pursuing her separation and divorce from the husband, because not because of the fact that she is a very adamant woman, but because of the fact that every time she is trying to look around, all that she sees is the conspiracy of the masculinity, and all that she sees is the kind of a situation where she cannot continue to live as a dignified person. I'll just elaborate that later. So she finally gets divorced, and the movie ends with that. I'll again come back to that later. So this is the story, but I would have hoped that you would have watched the movie. So when we say they are not anti-man, most of the movies, like this particular film, is not anti-man. It is definitely not uh, it is not pro-sexism. So when we say anti masculine, we are actually talking about anti-sexism. We're talking about anti-misogyny. We are talking about the celebration of femininity and celebration of these men, and how we would like to take a position opposite to them. So when I say sexism, in this movie also, the director builds up the early part of the film. He builds up how a very over normalized, a very normal, fantastic husband, Vikram, of the heroine, as her name is Amrita, how he is a very, very fine human being, like any one of us. In fact, he is no different from us, but he has his own sexism. He thinks women are not supposed to drive car, women are not supposed to probably have a costly car and work in costly offices. He carries his own subtle sexism within him. In fact, in one scene, when a woman in front of him, the car in front of him is driven in a very particular way, where maybe she's probably a new driver, and this guy says like, no, why would they let women drive? After all, women are not supposed to drive. And throughout the movie also, he establishes the normal everyday sexism of all of us, which is probably evidenced by this particular person. And also the anti-misogyny, how this fellow carries so much of misogynic attitude also within him. But this movie also celebrates that the men are not a very terrible species. In fact, if we give an impression that anti-masculine is anti-men, it's not, because the movie itself is trying to distance itself from the position that this is an anti-men movie. In fact, the movie repeatedly and very beautifully, poetically talks about the good men, the possibility of a feminine men who carries feminine principle. In fact, the character, the neighboring character Shivani, she talks about our own husband, how she was married to a wonderful man. It is not that all men are horrible people, terrible people, as probably most of the feminists critiques would try to put it. So she says, like, always believe that men are wonderful people as well, as you can see in the bottom of the screen. So the movie is not anti-men, and in fact, it is not just I'm trying to talk about the movie, but when some people are actually critical of masculinity, which I am also critical of masculinity, many of us, we are not trying to be anti-men. And we cannot throw the baby with the bathwater. The feminism with the critique of feminism cannot be thrown out by saying, you're anti-men. They are not anti-man. So this movie, another important thing about attacking masculinity, critiquing masculinity, is also the whole idea of pluralizing the solidarity. That's why it is not about man, it is not about woman, it is about all of us. It is the plural collective kind of an attempt. So here again, in this movie, we see a strong solidarity expressed by both women and men, as well as men and women together. For example, in one scene, when her husband, in a very misogynic or sexist way, he really asks the neighbor who has who has a car and she's living with her daughter. Her husband passed away. He just very sneeringly asks, "How does this lady? How is he? How is he able to buy a costly car?" In fact, he's actually trying to gossip. But the Amrita, who has his own sense of self, really disproves or not dismisses that by saying, no, she works very hard. And she also really destroys a moment of a gossiping nature. So it is actually a different kind of a solidarity. It is very much possible for the masculinized women to also gossip about their neighbor in such a destructive way. But here he also brings to closure the possibility of a gossip that would have definitely satisfied the male ego of the husband, but would have betrayed the femininity within the woman. But here she's taking sides with the feminine principle. She disagrees with her husband, and she says no, she works very hard and she doesn't really gossip about it. Normally, we realize in many of our normal situations, the masculinized women are the ones who will be probably destroying other women through gossip rather than even men themselves. So the sexism of women is a very problematic sexism. And here we have a character who's, despite being a very domestic, bliss enjoying kind of woman, she is not actually trying to become that sexist woman. She has her own position in relation to women. So that's kind of sexist, anti-sexist, and anti-patriarchal femininity is what we are talking about. And what is this masculinity? When we talk about masculinity, I don't mean anti-men. I don't mean anti feminism, but it is also about male entitlement. So masculinity is not about men, but it is about the male entitlement that we as a society, men and women, children, everybody together, try to valorize, normalize, and hold high. And that's a thing that this film actually questions in different moments of the film. So masculinity somewhere along the line thinks that male entitlement is taken for granted. Male entitlement is the right of a man. What is male entitlement? The right to be sexist, the right to treat women as an extension of a furniture, the right to treat women as as a kind of a servicing species of men, that you could actually treat it as a property and do whatever he wants to do. So this is the male entitlement that the society continuously build on, and this male entitlement also expresses itself in different ways. We'll also see that. So here, interestingly, in this film, the male entitlement is interrogated as a cultural and structural property. The movie does not simply make simple observations, but it actually questions the structural nature of masculinity. In this film, there is a particular scene immediately after she is slapped. The women are all gathering in one place, the men are all outside. And the mother in law says in this film, she says, "Look, it is all family matter. and we have to move on. We cannot really, stay on this moment. And in that sense, it's actually trying to be very structural and saying that women are not supposed to stay with their emotions. And in fact, after slapping her, male entitlement makes it so normal for a man to go and sleep. In fact, in the movie, if you watch it, after slapping her, uh, within few hours after the party is over, you can see Vikram, her husband, sleeping very peacefully as if nothing has happened. But the woman has to really, the agitated nature of the woman is not addressed, or it is taken care of by saying, look, it is a structural thing, it is a family thing, you are not supposed to really, bother about it. You cannot really afford to feel terrible about it. It's normal, it's cool. You have to move on. Look at your husband, he is already sleeping. Similarly, even within the parental home of the heroine, Amrita, even her mother says, what is a big deal? After all, he must have slapped for the first time, or he must have slapped with a reason. That's why the father asks the question. You cannot just be doing this because you're not even admitting that such a terrible thing has happened. So the structural and the relational nature are is actually interrogated here, because what normally happens is that when I say it's structural, normally women are isolated and rendered alone, and the entire structure is mobilized against them. Interestingly, the structure includes other women also. Here, when I say a woman who wants to stand on the identity of a woman rather than the identity of a role performer like daughter, mother, wife, and all that. The moment a woman tries to stand on the footprint of a labor for footprint of a woman, or a footprint of a personal significant woman identity, immediately you can see the whole structure is mobilizing itself against her, and push her again back to the role performing identity. So it is because masculinity is often affirming itself in a relational manner. Masculinity finds its identity, its conclusion and fullness in the way it relates to other human beings and other species of human beings, whether men or women. Whereas women have been forced to relate to the material world. For example, the women have to find their significance by relating to the material world, which is quite evident in this film also. For example, after the slap happened, the husband is peacefully sleeping, and this woman who's so agitated cannot even express it back to her husband, and she is so agitated she cannot sleep. She is moving around the furniture here. So the men can, because of the male entitlement, can afford to really deal and discover his significance with another person. So it is very human to human kind of a thing. Whereas in the case of woman, it's been forced to deal with a structural thing, because the material thing, because the whole set of kinship is not coming to support her. In fact, in the final sequence also, she will say, when I was all alone, none of you came around to talk to me whether I was okay or not. So she really has to get into dealing with the furniture and materials to express her angst. And because the male entitlement, as I told, it's a very structural property, because it actually is the product of the structural relationship that have been already established. So male entitlement is the function of women being forced to live in an other centric manner. The women in society have never been asked or never been socialized into living for themselves as women, but have to be living for themselves as the role bearing persons. For example, in this movie also, by really capturing these moments, this movie asks very, very interesting questions and important questions. Like, the women are always shown as serving the men in terms of other centric nature, whether it is serving men or mother-in-law or male or female children. They're constantly being forced to be other centric than self centric, whereas the men have the freedom and the entitlement to be centric around themselves. They can be centered around themselves, whereas women have always been forced to be more other centric and discovering their significance and happiness in that. So when I say that they are in the other centric, it is not just serving the men but also the masculinized others. It could be a mother-in-law also, and in this process she cannot even engage with her own personal emotions. She cannot even engage with their own personal sense of injustice and unfairness. Even in Prati Puvan Goli also, we see a similar scene where her parents are saying, after she was molested in the bus by the villain, she comes back and says, I cannot really move on because I want to take revenge on him. I want to return what happened to me to him, the parents say, no, no, it is very normal, you move on, because you cannot afford to hold on to your sense of injustice and unfairness because you are a woman. So the women's sense of angst, sense of dejection is something that the society always wants to paper over and move on. So because he has to be other centric, he has to find the joy and movement away from it by serving others, by really worrying about people. Okay, for example, the mother-in-law saying, look, in our lives, what matters is others' happiness. In contrast, what doesn't matter is our own happiness or our own sense of emotions, our own sense of injustice or unfairness. So because women have been socialized into that, that is the reason why women are other centric and male have the sense of entitlement. So this sense of unfairness and injustice is something that every scene in the movie, most of the scene in the movie, is trying to establish the fact of how structure, by promoting male entitlement, pushes the woman to move away from a sense of injustice, because the moment she feels a sense of injustice, and if she's actually taking up the question, probably patriarchy will not be served, because she'll be so busy dealing with her sense of injustice and unfairness that she would not be able to serve patriarchy. So the patriarchy wants the women to be a perennial service provider of the patriarchy, that he doesn't want her to engage with its own her own women's own personal significant feelings of either joy or happiness, which is derived from their own selves, or a injustice that has happened to their own personal selves. These are all things that cannot be sustained. For example, in this movie, I've taken up three films. In different parts of the film, she also says, look, everybody expected me to move away from what I thought was unfair. Or her mother-in-law saying, look, if you're feeling unfair, it's cool because it's a family thing. He might have had a reason. And even a lawyer who is otherwise a very masculinized in terms of her haircut, but still having her own sense of independence, a very successful lawyer, herself again making the same recommendation to her that you should move on. Okay, so the male entitlement has it another dimension. The masculinity has another dimension, which is this movie is also trying to deconstruct and attack, and that is the convenient rationality. Masculinity always appropriates a convenient rationality for itself, and in the case of women, it definitely makes allowance for women to also be rational, but upon the conditions provided by the masculinity. So normally the men have appropriated rationality for themselves. When I say rationality or even emotionality, it is all for the servicing of the masculine identity or patriarchy. Here, this man who comes and says, like after having slapped her, he never comes back to say that he felt he has made a mistake. He says, "Look, I've done what I had to do because I was already feeling enraged with my job. I felt terribly disappointed because I was not given promotion." And he thinks like the very rationality, with the rationalization that why he did so is more important than the sense of injustice that Amrita was experiencing. In fact, he says he appropriates the rationalization by saying, look, I am very right in doing what I did and I had reasons for it. So he brings in the reason and justifies his action. Whereas he doesn't really want to engage with the sense of injustice that she is going through. So women, whenever they've been also been rational, they've been rational because it serves the menfolk. For example, here, the moment the husband wants her to be emotional, she has to become emotional. The moment the husband wants her to be rational, she has to be rational. For example, when he says, you understand me, why I did it, she has to be rational. The moment he starts giving her a gift and says, look, let us move on, she has to become emotional. So the right for a woman to really choose her emotions and shift between rationality and emotionality is not something that a woman's prerogative. It is a prerogative of the men. And that's why the father-in-law asks a very important question when he says, look, it's all over. What is the big deal? Whatever happened has happened. And he asks the important question is why it happened. Why it happened is more important. Why it happened is not because of the rational factors that are going to bring in that you are disappointed, you are drunk or whatever it is. The why it happened is because of the cultural structural thing. You never inquired into your own reason why it was normal for you to slap your wife, but not the same to same was possible to do in relation to your boss. In fact, your boss was very much there. You didn't slap your boss. He was the reason why you are feeling enraged, but you didn't slap your boss. You slapped your wife. And you should ask the question, why was it so easy for you to slap your wife but not your boss, who was the reason for all your problems? So the rationality is, again, masculinity really clearly allocates rationality in a convenient manner to different sets of people, because masculinity is always designed in terms of winning. Masculinity is all about winning, and the entire structure and culture and relations are organized in favor of that winningness of the masculinity. The masculinity has to win, and everybody has to work towards that. Women's role is primarily to assist men to win, the masculinity to win. And that's why the domestic violence or the violence that are committed on women in terms of rape and molestation, eve teasing, all these things are masculine victories, because the masculine psychology, the psyche, the misogynist psyche always needs a sense of entitlement by winning things. It has to continuously win. In fact, in one scene, even the colleague who is a senior to him, he even questions him. We men are always forced to seek winning, that we even go to home and treat it as another battlefield and try to become a winner there, even at the cost of even putting all other people as losers. So in this entire masculine logic, women have to continuously lose and perennially lose in the interest of men winning it. In the for example, the men in the working class man we see in this film, Sunita's husband, the servant lady, the husband actually may be working in a place where he may be losing every moment. But this masculine logic, masculine psyche, which wants to have a sense of winning, comes home and starts blasting the wife. So he has his own small victories every day and goes to bed thinking that I won today. Maybe I might have lost in the public, but I might have become a winner at home. And here again, this fellow who was apparently losing into the job wants to suddenly win, and he thinks by slapping his wife he is won. So masculinity is all about wanting to win at every level, whether it is public or private. It always wants to win, and it wants to win either by bribing or either by taking up a warlike kind of a strategy. But that's what he does when he's about to lose the case. He goes to any length to even take revenge by hurling all kinds of abuses or leveling all kinds of accusations which are not true, because masculine logic is all about winning. And unfortunately, our society has also been organized in such a way that men have to be winners, so that women can be losers here. But whereas the true transcendental masculinity, femininity, or the transcendental identities and experiences should be more organized in terms of win-win logic. But unfortunately, we don't see a win-win logic here. Even though the director proposes, the solution is not. Again, the movie is the brilliance of the movie is not exactly. It is talking about women winning and men losing, in opposition to what happens in the real society, where men are the winners and women are the loser. It doesn't even want to revengefully reverse the logic. It actually wants to create a situation where both parties can be winner, and that's a beautiful communication. It's a beautiful logic that we need to establish. But masculine logic is always about men winning and women losing. And if that fails, masculine logic proposes another logic of losing losing. Either I have to win, the masculinity has to win, or both have to lose. That's why in the scene, if one interprets the scene where he comes and says, look, I've slapped you now you slap me back, we both become losers. Even though it looks like he proposes the idea of win-win, actually we both lose. We will remember us having been slapped by each other, a loss. And he thinks that is the logic of equivalence. That's a law of equivalence, where by slapping me back, you also achieved a sense of equivalence, which is actually a sense of loss. Both parties have to lose their dignity, and that's the masculine logic. But to another situation where this woman says, when she reveals her pregnancy to the husband, and the husband says, like, look, it's my son, my child in your womb. She says, like, no, it cannot be you or me, it can be our child, but it doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be that, either you win or I lose. It can be a win-win situation. So masculine logic is all about that. For example, how in this movie we repeatedly see the director not proposing the victory of a woman, but victory of a feminine principle, which affirms the idea of win-win game. Here, for example, when she talks to her mother-in-law, she says, "It is not everything is over. I'm going to come and see you. Our relationship is not ending. We both are going to relate to each other in a different way altogether. And I am very sure that we will love our child." She doesn't even talk about your child and my child. So she constantly promotes, and the director also trying to convey the language of winning in situations like that. So the idea of anti-masculine logic is not exactly someone else wins, someone else loses, but the idea of winning, and that's very, very important here. Similarly, the movie in another domain, it questions the masculinity by disaggregating the masculine principle in terms of male centeredness and female decenteredness. When I say male centeredness, men have been given the privilege of being very centered around their male identity, whereas the female have to move away from being female to a performer of a particular role. So the men can always return to their maleness, or men can return to their manhood, whereas a female can never return to her femaleness. She can only remain a mother or a daughter-in-law, maybe a wife. So that is the only role that she has to play. So women constantly have to become a role-bearing people who cannot really have a centered existence for themselves, centered around their own goals, centered around their own feminine desires, centered around their own women identity, but they have to be more of a move away from that center to the periphery, whereas the men have the freedom to remain at the center. Okay, so society in fact extends all privileges to a woman who, the moment she starts being a role bearer rather than a woman who is centered in her womanhood, a woman who is very centered in her own identity as a woman is a threat, and she is also a dysfunctional woman. If she is focusing on her womanness or focusing on her singular identity as an individual woman, then she is facing all kinds of virulent and revengeful reactions from the society, and she is also treated as a threat and a deeply dysfunctional woman. Whereas a highly masculinized centered man is a victor, is a model for everyone, a man who is a model in terms of being masculine, and society would not even fault if he pursues his own masculine man centered desires. For example, in this movie also, again the director is very brilliantly showing us a particular scene in which Amrita has left home, and the husband has to make his own tea, and he's not able to succeed because everything happens so clumsily in the kitchen. But the director is not trying to show the character as a victim. The director is not trying to show the character as someone who we need to be sympathizing with. Rather, he promotes, there's an element of mockery in this film. There's an element of a kind of sneering of this man, because not what normally society does is when a woman chooses to be independent and on all by herself, society treats that woman as a dysfunctional woman. Even the society would even say, oh, she's all alone because he's brought it upon herself, that she is not living in a family, that she is living as a woman independent of all the relationship. She is chosen to live like a woman, and that woman is always treated as a victim, as a woman who has brought this misfortune upon herself. Whereas when the man starts doing it, it is always treated as the failure of the caregiver. When a man struggles, the society will say, oh, அந்த அம்மா அந்த பொண்டாட்டி அவரை விட்டுட்டு போயிட்டாங்க, அந்த அம்மா அந்த ஆள் பாவம் கஷ்டப்பட்டுட்டு கிடக்கான். So it is not the fault of a man that he is not able to make tea. It is the fault of a woman who has not been around to really help him to make tea. So that's how the patriarchal logic operates. Because a male is entitled enough to not even to know how to make tea, and society would not fault him. It would rather say, oh, pitiable character. Whereas a woman who has chosen to remain independent will be faulted. That's what this movie questions in terms of how the society has been celebrating female decenteredness. And very interestingly, throughout the movie, very interesting intercuts happen in the movie, where the movie is trying to say this masculinity is pathological in nature. The masculinity that society has been persistently promoting is pathological. It is very sick. And it is articulated through the character of the father-in-law of the lawyer Netra. In fact, if you really recall the dialogues of Netra's husband, who is the son of this senior person who's sitting paralyzed here, her husband, see the man in the picture is her father-in-law. Her son repeatedly talks about how his father was such a patriarch, how he was such a successful lawyer, constantly winning every day. And he won every day and brought laurels to himself. But at what cost? What happens to this masculinity that constantly seeks winning as if it's an everyday phenomenon? This masculinity becomes pathological in nature. It becomes paralyzing to itself and paralyzing to others. And here we see a paralyzed masculinity, the pathological masculinity. In fact, the director is interestingly indicate the logical outcome of an over virulent, over pathological masculinity, because that's what will result. Masculinity is not destructive for women, masculinity is destructive for men themselves. And here we have an evidence of a male who is absolutely paralyzed. And this pathological nature of masculinity becomes more evident only when women discover their feminine gaze, the gaze of a woman. Largely, the society really promotes the gaze of a woman, which is nothing but the gaze of a male relayed through the eyes of a woman. When a woman actually looks admiringly, in fact, I'm just giving the first picture you see. In this picture where Mirtha is looking at her husband, it is actually the early days when there was domestic bliss. Here she looks at her husband admiringly as he's leaving for office. The gaze of Amrita is not the gaze of the Amrita, the woman. The gaze of Amrita here is the Amrita, the wife. And the gaze is actually a patriarchally relayed gaze. She's actually almost advertising patriarchy as the best solution for all the other women audience who are watching the movie. But the moment that particular gaze is removed, that gaze becomes more evaluative in nature, then the pathological nature of patriarchy begins to become evident. In fact, the director almost invites us to have a proper evaluative eye, so that evaluative gaze, so that we can all see the pathology of patriarchy, the pathology of masculinity. And he makes a very glaring case here by showing the father-in-law of our lawyer Netra, but also makes that reference constantly by making this unsettling gaze on women, on men. For example, in the second picture that I have here, the evaluative gaze of Amrita, the moment she frees herself from the patriarchal lens or removes the patriarchal spectacles and looks at patriarchy with her own feminine, strong, centered, women-centered eyes, then she could see the ordinariness, the pathology, and the sickness of men around there, sickness of masculinity around there, not just men. Because he also sees that masculinity in her mother-in-law, which I will show next. So the moment she looks at it, patriarchy and masculinity begins to become extremely insecure, and it is worried about getting disrobed. So we call it, I would like to characterize this as the disrobing of the masculinity with the evaluative gaze of a woman here, to the extent that she would even go to the extent of saying, if I had known, or if I had looked at you with a true feminine, women-centric gaze, probably I would have never even loved you. Because now only I could see with my evaluative eyes, evaluative gaze, I can see how stupid and ordinary you are, or ordinary masculinity is all about, how pathological and sick masculinity is all about. So the moment the women assumes this gaze, or the moment all of us takes on this evaluative gaze, whether men or women, the audience that we are all watching, then the liberatory moment happens, not only for the one who has that gaze, but also for all the people around us. So the evaluative gaze, the feminine evaluative gaze, is the gaze, or the look is the look that can not only liberate women, but also liberate people around us, and including even people like Vikrams and all other men. They can also be reformed. So liberation, reformation, and revolution both can simultaneously happen with the arrival of the truly evaluative female, feminine gaze, which is not a property of women alone, it's a property of our society. And the moment that gaze begins to become more strongly evident, it also brings into open the criminality, the victimhood, the misery, the emptiness, and the pathology of masculinity. In fact, men themselves begin to recognize the criminality of their own masculinity, the victimhood of their own masculinity, because they are victims of carrying that huge burden of being a masculine self, the emptiness, the misery, all these things are recognized by both the men themselves, also the masculinized women. In fact, in this movie, the zero-ness of being that masculine, the zero-ness of masculinity, the emptiness of masculinity is acknowledged by Vikram himself in the final scene when he says, I'm now zero. I'm going to start from zero. I'm no longer, because I never learned to say sorry. I never learned to be that genuine person. And all that I've accumulated is unhappiness and misery. And I'm now starting it as a zero. So this this particular disrobing can actually liberate a whole lot of people. When I said here, we see a situation where the men are liberated. In fact, the mother-in-law goes to the extent of liberating herself when she also assumes that male gaze by saying, as a whole, it is our fault. We have never brought our men that slapping a woman is actually a crime. We never taught our man that you cannot take a woman for granted, that you cannot treat her as a property. And it liberates the lawyer here, and it liberates her own brother, and everybody is liberated once that evaluative gaze that we all assume. So by putting all these things in one single movie, the movie has very elaborately interrogated and also offered us an interesting solution. Okay, this all this while I was just trying to celebrate this movie, but if you ask me, do you not see any issues in the movie? Yes, I see definitely some issues here. For example, the primary problem for me, yes, the movie strongly critiques the masculinity and patriarchy, compelling women to become a role bearer, that she can only survive in society as a mother, as a daughter, as a wife, but not as a woman. But why the movie has chosen to even end in such a way that it has made her a mother rather than Amrita the woman? In fact, in the climax scene, we see Amrita carrying, expecting a child, and she has decided to hold on to the child. She has decided to remain a mother rather than a woman here. In fact, one can even ask the question: did the director not think of even a kind of an accidental abortion, and miscarriage, or did not even think of this woman taking a very strong and bold decision of not even wanting to have track with the child? Why is this? Why this obsession of being a mother? Why the movie fails to resolve it in favor of a woman, and why it resolves it in favor of a society? Again, making that woman a mother rather than a woman. She could have, Amrita could have returned to her womanhood rather than returning to her motherhood. Secondly, the problem with the movie is that throughout the movie, even after she realizes that she's that slap of her husband showed her the unfairness of the society and taken her back to her college days where she was a happiness loving, dignity loving, respect loving woman, we still see her continuing to remain a Bahu kind of, a very daughter in law kind of woman here. In fact, there is one particular scene in the movie where there's a dance when the husband's party, and that is the only moment in which we see Topsy that we know her, the Topsy that is uh, very flamboyant and all that. She has that streak in her, but she remains throughout the movie a Bahu, a kind of a typical father, a daughter-in-law, typical woman. And why the director has chosen to her? She had all the options with her to have really simply freed herself from the clutches of having to become a mother or having to become that Bahu, a typical woman. Could have chosen a career. We don't know whether she's going to choose a career or not. Nothing of that is shown. So the director definitely has its own issues here, but I do understand that the movie was made within the popular film realm and it has its own commercial compulsions. Definitely, the movie has moved far ahead in terms of asking very, very important, unsettling questions, but still the job is not finished. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful
Yes.
presentation.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sir?
Yes, yeah, I heard it. Thank you, Dr.
Aruna.
Gandhi. Yeah.
Sir, is it audible to you, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, yeah. Yes, Dr. Rupakar, you would like to just
Yeah, yes, sir.
sort of invite the audience. Yeah.
Thank you, Kumaran sir, for such an intellectually powerful and inspiring
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm
Hello.
just muting because yes, please, yeah.
Uh, for the benefit of people who have not heard it, thank you, Kumaran sir, for such an intellectually powerful and inspiring presentation. It is definitely one of those topics which can bring more and more insights as we collectively share our questions, our observations. So now the session is open for questions from the audience side, as well as even if you don't have a question, if you want to reaffirm certain observations of the presenter, you're you're most welcome. So over to you, audience.
Yeah, people who want to ask questions can unmute and ask questions or observations. Yeah. Yes,
Hello, can I
yes,
go ahead?
yes, Catherine, please go ahead. Yeah.
Um, so I definitely I don't have questions, but I definitely want to share my views
Yeah,
with everyone here. I
sure.
commend Sir and all the whole department, whoever organizing team for putting together this little talk, which is
Mhm.
so important. Like I actually told Uma ma'am that I will be there for a bit because I have some other work to finish, but I couldn't stop myself from listening to the whole presentation, about the issue of toxic masculinity. And I think I had written points also actually, about how in how ingrained this issue, this social construct is in all of our lives. And I think that it's a struggle. I can speak as a woman who is also going through this, is challenging her own ideas of toxic masculinity, as Sir very rightly said that it is not, it's gender neutral. We need to remember that it is not like only men are toxic, have this issue of toxic masculinity, but some of it, we have, I feel like this from a very young age. We see it in our families, and because I work with children, I'm always very curious, and I always believe that everything starts from home, and children, they practice all of this during their life, and especially in adulthood, through their childhood with what they learn. And I feel like it is so important to challenge ourselves at every point when we're talking to women, when we're talking to men, when we're talking to children. How are we encouraging behavior, or are we encouraging talks that when there is someone who's showing that toxic masculinity in any form, in their behavior or in their speech towards a woman or towards a man or towards a queer person, a person who
Yeah.
identifies as a lesbian or a trans person, are we encouraging it, or are we fighting against it? And I think
Yeah.
that is very very important. I wish, and I think many of you know, in Delhi, the issue
Mm.
of the boys locker room, and then the
Yeah.
issues that have followed on social media, and how somewhere toxic masculinity has such a big role to play in it. The entitlement that men feel, the entitlement that women think men have. And I'm also a subject to that. And I feel like right now I've been trying to unlearn with the education that I have gotten. And it is so important. Like, I can keep talking about it. It has affected me, and I'm still learning about it. So thank you, sir, for
Yes.
this beautiful talk.
Oh, thank you, Catherine, for that wonderful observation. Very, very sharp observation. Yes, and very confessional, also autobiographical and confessional nature. Thank you that you stayed through. In fact, I just only finally checked to see if you're still
Yeah.
around. Then when I was very happy, I thought, okay, I could actually probably, I considered myself a success when I found you around. Maybe I thought we could
Oh,
really
thank you so much.
lure you away
Thank you
from
so
going
much.
away. Okay.
Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
it's very important. I think your students who have been a part of this would definitely benefit from this talk, and I hope they will also take it as a challenge to challenge themselves and the people around who engage in such behavior. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I hope we will be now hearing from our own students their own thoughts. They will even share it in Tamil. I think Catherine can also understand Tamil, so don't worry.
Yes,
You can also share
yes.
it. Yes, yeah. Yes. Yes, someone else? Dr. Govindran, you are there. I think. Did you really? Could you be part of it throughout? Because I saw you again getting admitted.
To
Hello,
this thing,
Govindran.
you were talking about some issues, and that
Yeah,
point
yeah.
actually the network was disconnected, and again I was admitted. You thank you for that.
Okay, okay. Only now. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
others. Yeah. Anyone else or anybody wants to make observations? Yeah. So questions also fine. Yeah, in case.
Yeah, sir, myself,
Yes, sir, Dr.
myself,
Abhakar.
Gandhi.
Yes, yes, Gandhi. Yes, yeah,
Thank
go
you
ahead.
very much, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. In fact,
Yes. Mm,
your presentation opened some of new area, so that
mhm.
I had previously. So apart from this, I wanted to note four important things. First
Mhm.
one thing is, sir, is it audible to you all?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you, Dr. Armagan.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. So, from my observation, I simply wanted four things to pinpoint as my observation.
Yeah.
So, which impressed me very well. So, we can see masculinity in all.
Mm,
That
mm, mm. Yes, please go
so,
ahead. Yes,
on
yeah.
the one hand, the society permits to identify the gender-based identity in all, but it restricts the establishment of identity to some people.
Mhm,
So this is
mhm,
a very good thing I observed from your thing. Then second one is females always being role performers, not
mm.
they simply playing or merely playing, performing their role, not they enjoying the status.
Sure, sure.
So they are subjected to entitling the role, not status. So as you
Yeah.
told very recently now, mother, wife, like that.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Third one is how far the society is prerogative of men folk only, not women
Mhm,
folk.
mm, mm, mm,
So it is culturally established so that we can understand this thing, how far the society is prerogative. And the fourth one is finally, so as much as possible, you have applied all three major sociological perspective in your lectures, sir. So functionalism first, how far the society is functional only for men and dysfunctional
mm,
through its established means to women. So,
mm,
as far as in this film is concerned, how the second one, how a
mm,
conflict within an individual arises. So,
mm,
because of such a conflict, how the female is trying to overcome the burdens.
mm,
While we trying to overcome the burdens, she faced the conflict with an individual. So, in this context, we can understand conflict in an individual, conflict with an individual, as a whole, conflict with a society.
mm, 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 mm. Good. Yeah,
The
yeah.
third one is interactionism, as we all know.
Mm,
So, as I observed previously and noted previously, how far status and role is exclusively for men and not for women, even though they enjoy certain status and performing certain role, all is
mm,
subject to the are they in the situation of win-win or in the situation of win and lose, like that. So in
mm,
this context,
mm.
I really enjoyed your lecture, sir.
Thank you.
Even though I didn't see the film, but now I had the feeling of watching the movie.
Great. Thank you for your
Thank you, sir.
thank you for your very sensitive comments. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and very
Thank you,
academic
sir.
also.
Thanks
It
a
was
lot,
very good.
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, being a student of sociology, I made this observations from your lecture. I hope this also would be very beneficial to our students also.
I hope so. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I hope so. Yes.
These all mine, sir. Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
great. Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, for that. Yeah.
Sir, welcome. Welcome, sir. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
Kumaranta, it's me,
Yes.
Catherine. I just want to quickly say that I'll have to exit now
Sure. Okay.
and get with my work. But again, thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you.
So
And it's our
take care.
pleasure to have had you around. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Same here. Same here. Thank you, ma'am. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Catherine. Yeah. Bye, Catherine. You can move. Yeah. Yes, others. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, myself Kubendran sir.
Yes, Dr. Govindran, please. Yeah.
Okay. If there is any question from student side, we can accommodate. Otherwise, let me talk later. Is it okay
Pardon
if
me?
I'm talking earlier? So I'm talking. I mean, I want to present my observation now. If there is any question from student side, they can present first, and I can also just I'm giving options to students. If students are having any questions, let them know.
I think we can make it
Okay,
brief so that you can make your
proceed.
observation so that if you
Yeah.
can make it briefly, then we'll come back again. I think the students will also be getting ready to offer their comments. You go ahead with your observation, Dr. Govindran. Make it
Yes,
brief
sir.
so that okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. First of all, actually, you actually allowed the general audience. It's opportunity for me to join, and thank you for that. And second thing, and about your presentation, actually, I could understand, even though I didn't see the movie, but I could understand how the plot of the movie and the thematic. The presentation. In fact, it was more of thematic presentation what you have presented. It was like intelligent and intelligent presentation. Really, I enjoyed the narration that you had it on account of the particular film. Thank you for that. And about actually like the observation come actually a question. Actually, it is also like maybe the substantial thoughts of students and they be having it in their mind. So the observation question is actually it seems that the movie or the environment of actually the particular family, be it like in general society and particularly the patriarchal ideas that actually provides and occupies the entire family and except like the particular character the particular heroine character. So actually, like what actually here lacks? Because like when
What?
it comes to the emotional aspects of emotional aspect, when it comes to emotional aspects, both actually the husband and wife actually they're losing their actually like the rational thing. So one side, the husband is actually like having some reason that is actually totally irrelevant and slapping the wife. But the wife is actually is not accepting the patriarchal ideology values that the husband is actually enforcing in terms of actions like some emotional things. So it's like when it comes to emotions, they both of them feel like they've been as you said they feel like they are satisfied. They are actually quite satisfied that okay, they won by emotions. But when it comes to rational thing, it's lacks. When it comes to the assertive things, so whether it is actually this asset, I mean, self-centric as well as society-centric, the whole family is actually playing like a society-centric actually values towards the particular person who is who wants to have, express the self-centric values. So what actually here lacks? I mean, the wife is having a perfect socialization process. She had this self-centric values in the socialization process, whereas the other family, even the family environment, and including the husband, is not actually having that socialization process, whereas the self-centric, the things would be given to the other person as an individual also. What actually you feel, sir, whether the socialization process, which is actually is again, I want to say the socialization process, whether that is stick on to the patriarchal thing. So whether the self-centric thing is needed in the socialization process, where the country is like, our country is a patriarchal society, where whether we have to have the self-centric values, without minding the patriarchal values, which is, is given in the family. What do you say?
Yeah, and I don't know whether I have the answers for it, but I would like to really make a kind of a counter observation or this observation along the same line. In fact, one clarification that I want to make is that, if, for example, if you really, the one who watches the movie tends to think, oh, it's all a slap. Should we really make a big deal of the slap? In fact, not only the audience, even the people who have watched the movie, or within the movie also, the other characters ask the same question: why are you making a big deal of a slap? ஆக்சுவலி ஒரு அரை வாங்கினதுக்காக கல்யாணமே வேணாம்னு சொல்லுவாங்களா? மேரேஜவே பிரேக் பண்ணுவாங்களா? That is the question everybody would ask. Within the movie also they ask the same question. But actually, as you rightly said, like, yes, what happened in our society is that the socialization process, the diffused nature of patriarchy and masculinity, என்ன ஆகுது அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, எல்லாத்தையுமே இந்த மாஸ்குலினிட்டியும் பேட்ரியார்க்கி நமக்குள்ள எல்லாருக்குள்ளேயும் பரவி போய் கிடக்குது. அம்மா கிட்ட இருக்கு, நம்ம அம்மா கிட்ட இருக்கு, நம்ம ஸ்பௌஸ் கிட்ட இருக்கலாம், நம்ம குழந்தைகள்கிட்ட இருக்கலாம், எல்லார்ட்டையும் பரவி கிடக்கக்கூடிய இந்த மாஸ்குலினிட்டி, what happens is this makes it really one-sided. This makes it normal for a person to have entitlement to do things that he wants to do. For example, he thinks it is normal for a man to do a whole lot of things, or normal for a masculine person, it could be a mother-in-law, any damn things. In fact, in this movie also there is a scene in which you see different mother-in-laws who are nothing but a masculinized version of women. They are women but masculinized women. So it is not something that tries to say that only men are a problem. Okay, so what happens is all these people think it is normal for people to do things which are pro-masculine and anti-feminine. It is very normal. இது இந்த சோசியலைசேஷன் நம்ம எல்லாருக்குள்ளயுமே கொடுக்கப்பட்டிருக்கிறது தான். இந்த அடிங்கிறது, இந்த அறைங்கிறதுனுடைய வந்து ஒரு மெட்டஃபர். So the problem is not that she was slapped. That's why the character, the father-in-law, also asked the question, நீ அரைஞ்சது முக்கியம் இல்லை, it is not that slapping, but why you could slap is the question that you should answer. I don't want an answer why you slapped her, but I wanted an answer why it was easy for you to slap a person. You ask the question, where does that entitlement that you can slap a woman and still ask her to move on? என்ன ஒரு அரைஞ்சதுக்கா என்ன பெருசாகிட்டவா போகலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்ல முடியாது. Because in the same, if you really look at our popular filmலயே கூட பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா, ஒரு தடவை இன்சல்ட் பண்ணிட்டாங்கிறதுக்காக கடைசி வரைக்கும் அவனையும் அவன் அடியாட்களையும் கொல்ற அளவுக்கு ஒரு ஆண் வந்து ஹீரோயிக்கா இருக்கலாம். ஏன்னா தன்னை அவமானப்படுத்திட்டான்ற ஒரே காரணத்துக்காக பழி வாங்கலாம். உதாரணமா நீங்க அந்த மகேஷ் பிரதிகாரம்ன்ற படம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா, ஒரு ஆம்பளை அவனை ஒரு அவமானப்படுத்திடுறான். அந்த ஆம்பளை கடைசியில அவனை பழிவாங்குற அந்த அரைஞ்சவனை திருப்பி அறையிறதுக்காக பண்ற அந்த ஹோல் இது வந்து ஏற்றுக்கொள்ளக்கூடியதா இருக்குது. ஒரு ஆணுக்கு அது வந்து அவமானம். பட் ஒரு பெண்ணுங்கிற வந்து தன்னுடைய ஹஸ்பண்டே அடிச்சுட்டா கூட she has to move on, should not be treating it. This entitlement is the problem. அதனால the movie தப்பட் is not exactly about that act of slapping, but the socio-cultural context that makes slapping easy. And it is not just slapping, a whole act of slapping that happens in different forms, that insulting, not allowing. In fact, sociological studies say women never complete a conversation when they talk to a man, because men always think a woman's conversation can be interrupted. So இந்த மாதிரி நிறைய விஷயங்களுடைய அந்த என்டைட்டில்மெண்ட் தான் அந்த ஸ்லாப்புங்கிறது என்டைட்டில்மெண்ட். அதை கொஸ்டின் பண்ணுறேன். எஸ், தேங்க்யூ. எல்லாருமே நம்ம we all have to really recognize and move towards a society where we have a transcendental femininity. It is not we want a feminine principle to win in relation to a masculine principle. We don't want women to win in relation to men, but we want a beautiful transcendental notion of femininity that should win. Yeah. And which is actually an inclusive win. Everybody will win because of that. Because once the feminine principle is taken, the sickness, the pathology of masculinity also will become evident. அதான் நான் சொன்னேன், ஒரு இந்த படத்துல வந்து அந்த வயசான தாத்தாவை அவர் காமிக்கிறது எதுக்கு அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா, அந்த ஃபாதர் இன் ஒரு காலத்துல சிங்கம் அவரு இன்னைக்கு எப்படி உட்கார்ந்துருக்காருன்னா பேரலைஸ் ஆகி உட்கார்ந்துருக்காரு. அதன் மூலமா அது தப்படு எப்படி ஒரு ஆணுடைய உரிமையோ, அந்த உரிமை அந்த சமுதாயம் கொடுத்த உரிமைங்கிறத அந்த அறையோ, அது மாதிரி இந்த வயசான அந்த தாத்தா வந்து பேரலைஸ் ஆகி உட்கார்ந்துருக்க அந்த ஃபாதர் இன் லாங்கிறது தான் பேட்ரியார்க்கினுடைய வடிவம். பேட்ரியார்க்கே பேரலைஸ் ஆகி போய் உட்கார்ந்துருக்கு, ஏன்னா தன்னை ரொம்பவும் சீரியஸா எடுத்துக்கிட்டதுனால. ஓகே, அதர்ஸ் கேன் ஆஸ்க் क्वेश्चंस. யா, எனிவன் எல்ஸ்? வேற ஏதாவது? You can unmute and answer. Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
I fully agree. Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I agree with this observation of this, how toxic masculinity denies the agency of men, in a social institution. That is very highlighted. But my question is more in terms of, okay, we have recognized this issue of toxic masculinity. So what is the way out? Is it men returning to role performers, or where do we draw this boundary? Because we said, like, when it comes to issues, we were talking about how women still is being seen as role models once, even when she is independent. But now we have recognized this toxic masculinity, but what is the way out? How do we want men to change? If we can have a bit of discussion open on that.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. First response is just recognition. That we have recognized is not a popular recognition. It's a recognition that happens in certain pockets in Indian society. It has not become a general recognition, because as Catherine was saying, or as we see in news reports every day, the toxic masculinity is still alive and kicking, still thriving very strongly, and still influencing a whole lot of men. Even the children who are now being brought up are not free from this toxic masculinity. In fact, we are now in the present political kind of a context, we even see over assertion of this toxic masculinity. So it will be an illusion to say, yes, all of us have recognized this. Yes, those who have recognized it have recognized the pathology of it and are now trying to change it structurally, change it culturally, and change it relationally. In fact, the solution is lying in the very diagnosis that we make as to where the problem lies. The problem lies in structure, the problem lies in culture, the problem lies in the way we relate. So all these three domains, and definitely the structural domain is what actually puts it in our mind. So we are not talking about psychological domain, but because the psychology itself is a social construct. So these three domains, structural, cultural, and relational domains, people who have recognized the toxicity of masculinity are trying to change and trying to really relate differently, deconstruct it structurally, and they are actually promoting alternative culture, including this film is a promotion of an alternative vision. But again, okay, Anubhav Sinha has recognized it. Maybe how much of the actor has recognized it on a day-to-day basis, even that Gulati is still doubtful. So this has to be the recognition and the misrecognition have to happen simultaneously. Recognition, yes, this is there and I have to move away from it. Misrecognition is I should not recognize my own masculine power strongly. That is what is misrecognition. I have to deliberately misrecognize my masculine power, because society has enormously given lots of power to men and masculinized individuals, whether it's a male or a female. All of us enjoy the power. Yeah, a woman boss who becomes an office head begins to become more masculine than feminine, because he's really enjoying all the benefits, all the entitlement that masculinity enjoys, he also wants to enjoy. So we all have to misrecognize that even whether you are a male or a female, you have to misrecognize. You should not be assuming the powers that masculinity has endowed within you, and you have to move away from that. And then, so I would really, first of all, I would like to disagree that yes, it is not everyone has recognized, and those who have recognized has definitely moved away from it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Anyone else on student side? ஏதாவது observation தமிழ்லயே கூட சொல்லுங்க, ஒன்றும் பிரச்சனை இல்லை. You can unmute and then talk. Yeah. Dr. Manaka is there. Yes, he wants to say something. I could see your mic unmuted. Oh, no, it's muted only. Yeah, yeah. Dr. Manaka, can you hear me? Yeah. Yes. Students side, Kanmani, Gomati Sankari. Kanmani?
Sir,
Yes,
yes, sir.
Kanmani. Yes, sir. Yes, சொல்லுங்க எது சொல்ல வரீங்களா சும்மா நம்ம கமெண்ட் கூட சொல்லலாம் டோன்ட் நீட் டு ஆஸ்க் கொஸ்டின்ஸ் என்ன ஃபீல் பண்ணீங்கன்னு கூட சொல்லுங்க
ஃபீல் பண்ணது ஒரு விஷயம் தான் சார். எப்ப விமன் வந்து அவங்களோட பொட்டன்ஷியாலிட்டியை வந்து அஸ் அ விமனா ரிவீல் பண்றாங்களோ அப்போ ஒரு மேலோட என்டைட்டில்மெண்ட் வந்து என்னன்னு அந்த மேலுக்கு சரியா புரிய வரும். அதுக்கு இந்த மூவி வந்து ஒரு நல்ல எக்ஸாம்பிள் நான் நினைக்கிறேன் சார்.
Yeah. Sorry, we have to have it fully in English because of the fact that others have joined also from outside, and also we normally hold it in English. Yes, yes, yeah.
When a woman shows or reveals her potentiality with full power, the male will realize that the entitlement is not that what they shown. They will realize their entitlement is not what they shown. That's what I have realized by seeing this movie, and this is best example for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Kanmani. Yeah.
Sir, Menaka.
Yes, sir.
Sir?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you. Yes, please. Yeah.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Hello.
you, Dr. Manaka. Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Can you
sir.
hear me?
It was a wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
It was a wonderful presentation. And one observation is that in between you told that women are expected as rational when women expected to be, and when it happens in reality, it happens.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. You are asking me a question or your observation?
Just an observation, sir. In
Yes.
reality, whether it's going to make any sense or not, in reality, we have the chance of win-win situation.
Hello. It slightly breaks. Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah, it's breaking, Dr. Manaka, slightly. Would you like to come on again? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm just asking, in reality, do we have the chance of win-win situation? What we, as a sociologist, or what we need to do?
Yes.
Whether do we need to socialize our children that both men and women equal like that? Is there any chance of win-win situation, sir?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, the very sweetness and the tastefulness of win-win communication, win-win situation, we need to really make it possible. In fact, any situation, either it's between male and male or between parents and children, we need to really think of a win-win communication, win-win situation, which definitely the feminine principle is always built along those lines. The true feminine principle, I'm not talking about the patriarchally constructed feminine principle, but if you really deconstruct all the patriarchal layers, and then the true feminine principle or true ideal principles are always built upon win-win situation. So the way we promote the communication, for example, in our families also, we want our child to score the first rank. We want our child to be a winner so that everyone else is a loser. So this is how we promote that, competitiveness, masculinity, thinking that is how you would survive. So this we have to really deeply inquire and give up and ask ourselves very tough questions. Do we really want to have this kind of a communication? How can we think of an alternative way of telling, okay, you be a winner and you ensure as much possible that everyone else is a winner, and we need to have a society where you also whatever you learn, you also teach someone. You don't have to show it in the examination. I would be very proud that you are the reason why many in your class have scored first rank than you only being a first rank holder. So the way we socialize our children, also we socialize them in terms of a competitive masculine logic, the cold reason,
Yeah.
rationality logic. So we need to think how we can re-socialize differently, or how we can move away from that kind of a socialization. Because as I argued in that observation, in particular part where I told the rationality and emotionality is a choice for a man, whereas it's for a woman, it's a gift from masculinity. So only when the masculinity allows, he has to be rational. When the masculinity allows, he has to be emotional. So she cannot really contradict it. She cannot really do a opposite of that. But because we always want to create a win-lose situation, so we need to move away from that kind of a win-lose or lose-lose. Because the patriarchal, the masculine logic is not that men logic. Even women are doing it. Is one of either you win and the other person lose, or you both lose. Yeah. So the way we phrase our dialogues, the way we dialogue with children, the way we dialogue with our colleagues, the way we dialogue with everyone should change. We need to find a win-win way of communicating, win-win way of doing things and saying things. Yeah. I don't know whether I answered your question. Hello.
Sir.
Yeah, I don't know whether I answered your question properly, but I thought, yeah. Okay, so it's also anyone else if we are going on time. I know your time is, I'm encroaching on your time. Arun Shankar, ஏதாவது கமெண்ட் இருக்கா? Arun?
Sir?
Arun, Arun, எது சொல்லணுமா? கமெண்ட் இருக்கா? If you have any observation, Arun, இல்லைன்னா we can.
Sir, net hello, கேக்குதா சார்?
ஓ, நெட் கேக்குது.
இல்ல சார், கமெண்ட்ஸ் இல்ல சார்.
Okay. Okay, we will see whether anyone else is volunteering. Otherwise, we can ask Rupa Hari, Mrs. Rupa Hari, to just wind up. Yeah.
So, is there any other comments? So, shall we proceed to the conclusion?
Yeah, we can, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, my dear faculty members and students. The last 1.5 hours was an extremely engaging and intense session of reflexive questioning. Definitely, there is so much to take away from this seminar into our lives on an everyday basis. Starting from challenging the very rationale behind the very place of tolerance in a relationship, normalization of toxic masculinities, or whether it is about the perennial presence of a very normalized destructive masculinity, the illusions of domestic bliss, all those have crippled our vision when it comes to gender equality as a society. No words would be enough to thank our faculty member, Dr. R. Kumaran, Center for Studies in Sociology, for choosing to share ideas on such a sensitive and intellectually stimulating topic. One can easily make out the great amount of intellectual work and effort that the presenter has put in to do justice to this topic. I express my heartfelt gratitude to Kumaran sir for this wonderful presentation on Interrogating Masculinity, a case study of the Hindi film Thappat. Thanks a million, sir, for this presentation. Without doubt, partly success of any program lies in the hands of vibrant audience. We were extremely privileged to witness a spirited audience with a lot of questions and observations on the seminar topic. From the bottom of my heart, I would like to extend my thanks and appreciation for all those students and our friends who raised questions and sought answers. Thanks a ton. With an equal spirit of gratitude, I acknowledge those members of audience who graced this seminar with their presence. Thanks a lot. Last but not the least, I'm indebted to my faculty friends, Dr. Armuga Gandhi, Dr. Menaga, Dr. Raja, and Dr. Rajangam for the academic insights into this program. Thanks a million.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we can wind up. And thank you so much for all of you having participated engagingly. And thank you. It's wonderful to see you all. Again, we'll keep in touch. Thank you. Bye. Yeah.
It's our pleasure,
Thanks
sir.
so much.
It's our
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
my
Thank
pleasure.
yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Bye,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Yes. Gubendran, Dr. Gubendran.